Question 1. Comparative studies suggest that streamlining student onboarding processes can significantly improve institutional efficiency. At Musanna College of Technology, a new batch of applicants is awaiting registration, and the admissions office is experiencing a high volume of inquiries. A senior administrative officer suggests bypassing the standard document verification checklist for a subset of applicants to expedite their registration, arguing that their previous academic records appear satisfactory, which approach best upholds the college's commitment to regulatory compliance and ethical student data management. Option A. Relying on the personal judgment of admissions staff to assess the adequacy of applicant documents without strictly following the documented verification checklist based on their experience. Option B. Implementing the senior officer's suggestion to bypass the standard verification for applicants with seemingly satisfactory previous records to speed up the onboarding process. Option C. Adhering strictly to the established document verification checklist and registration protocols for all applicants, ensuring each piece of information is cross-referenced against the college's system before proceeding with registration. Option D. Prioritizing applicants who are more vocal or persistent in their inquiries, processing their registrations first regardless of the completeness of their documentation, to manage immediate pressure. Correct answer is C. Adhering strictly to the established document verification checklist and registration protocols for all applicants, ensuring each piece of information is cross-referenced against the college's system before proceeding with registration. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the immediate need for efficient student onboarding with the imperative to adhere to Musanna College of Technology's established admission procedures and data privacy regulations. A hasty, non-compliant process, even if seemingly faster, can lead to significant ethical breaches and regulatory violations, undermining the integrity of the admissions process and potentially jeopardizing student data. The correct approach involves meticulously following the documented admission and registration protocols, which are designed to ensure fairness, accuracy, and compliance with relevant Omani educational regulations and data protection guidelines. This approach prioritizes data integrity, student rights, and institutional reputation. By verifying all required documents and information against the established checklist and system entry procedures, the college upholds its commitment to a transparent and secure admission process. This aligns with the principles of good governance and responsible data handling expected of educational institutions. An incorrect approach that bypasses standard verification procedures for speed is professionally unacceptable. This failure constitutes a breach of institutional policy and potentially Omani data protection laws, which mandate secure and accurate handling of personal information. Such an approach risks admitting unqualified students, creating administrative errors, and exposing the college to liabilities related to data breaches or noncompliance. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes the convenience of a single staff member over established protocols is also flawed. This undermines the principle of accountability and can lead to inconsistencies in the admissions process. It disregards the importance of a standardized, auditable system that ensures all applicants are treated equitably and that all necessary checks are performed systematically. Relying on informal methods or personal discretion rather than documented procedures opens the door to bias and errors, violating ethical standards of fairness and impartiality. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding and strictly adhering to established institutional policies and relevant Omani laws. When faced with pressure to expedite a process, the first step is to consult the official procedural manual and any applicable regulatory guidelines. If the pressure conflicts with these established rules, the professional should communicate the risks of deviation and seek clarification or approval for any proposed modifications, ensuring that any changes remain compliant and ethically sound. The focus should always be on maintaining the integrity and security of the process, even if it requires more time. Question 2. The audit findings indicate a potential weakness in the process for managing the secure storage and distribution of entrance examination papers at Musanna College of Technology. Which of the following approaches best addresses these findings while upholding academic integrity and regulatory compliance? Option A. Digitize all examination materials and store them on a cloud-based platform for easier access and distribution. Option B. Immediately reduce the number of personnel involved in handling examination materials to cut costs, assuming current procedures are adequate. Option C. Implement a multi-stage verification system for all examination material handling, including secure logging of access and distribution, and a review of existing storage security protocols. Option D. Consolidate all responsibilities for examination material management under a single, trusted staff member to streamline operations. The correct answer is C. Implement a multi-stage verification system for all examination material handling, including secure logging of access and distribution, and a review of existing storage security protocols. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the ethical imperative to maintain academic integrity and ensure fair assessment for all prospective students. The audit findings highlight a potential breakdown in the process for managing entrance examination materials, which could lead to compromised security and fairness. Careful judgment is required to identify and implement improvements that address the identified weaknesses without introducing new risks or violating established protocols. The correct approach involves a systematic review and enhancement of the entire process for handling examination materials, from secure storage and distribution to collection and secure disposal. This includes implementing stricter access controls, detailed logging of all material movements, and robust verification procedures at each stage. This approach is justified by the fundamental principles of academic integrity and fairness, which are implicitly or explicitly governed by the Musanna College of Technology's internal regulations and potentially broader Omani Ministry of Higher Education guidelines concerning examination security and administration. These regulations would mandate that examination processes are transparent, secure, and equitable, ensuring that all candidates have an equal opportunity. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on immediate cost reduction by reducing the number of security personnel without a corresponding assessment of the risks involved would be professionally unacceptable. This fails to uphold the regulatory requirement for adequate security measures to prevent malpractice and maintain the integrity of the examination process. Another incorrect approach, which involves digitizing all examination materials without a comprehensive risk assessment of cybersecurity vulnerabilities and data protection protocols, would also be unacceptable. This could expose sensitive examination content to unauthorized access or manipulation, violating data privacy principles and potentially compromising the examination's validity. A third incorrect approach, which involves delegating the entire process of material handling to a single individual without any oversight or segregation of duties, creates a significant risk of error or misconduct and fails to meet the implicit requirement for internal controls and accountability inherent in any well-managed institutional process. Professionals should employ a risk-based decision-making framework. This involves first understanding the current process and identifying potential vulnerabilities, as highlighted by the audit. Then they should assess the likelihood and impact of these vulnerabilities leading to negative outcomes, e.g., security breaches, unfair advantage. Based on this assessment, they should identify and evaluate potential solutions, considering their effectiveness in mitigating risks, their feasibility, and their alignment with regulatory requirements and ethical standards. The chosen solution should be implemented with clear procedures, adequate training, and ongoing monitoring to ensure its effectiveness and compliance. Question 3. Regulatory review indicates that Musanna College of Technology is seeking to optimize its admissions process for the upcoming academic year. Considering the college's commitment to fair and equitable access to education, which of the following approaches best aligns with the established entrance examination guidelines and institutional policies for applicant evaluation? Option A. Streamlining the process by only considering applicants who meet a very high initial threshold on a single, easily quantifiable metric, without further holistic review. Option B. Expediting the initial screening by relying on a limited set of applicant data, with a promise to review full documentation for a select group later. Option C. Implementing a multi-stage review process where each applicant's complete documentation is assessed against predefined, objective admission criteria by multiple evaluators. Option D. Allowing individual admissions officers to apply their personal judgment to interpret admission criteria, prioritizing candidates who appear to have strong potential based on informal assessments. Correct answer is C. Implementing a multi-stage review process where each applicant's complete documentation is assessed against predefined, objective admission criteria by multiple evaluators. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the ethical imperative of ensuring equitable access to educational opportunities, all within the specific regulatory framework of Musanna College of Technology's entrance examination guidelines. The pressure to optimize processes can sometimes lead to overlooking critical fairness considerations. The correct approach involves a systematic evaluation of all applicant data against clearly defined, pre-established admission criteria. This ensures that decisions are objective, transparent, and consistently applied to all candidates, thereby upholding the principles of fairness and meritocracy mandated by the college's admission policies. This approach aligns with the regulatory expectation of impartial selection processes, preventing any form of bias or discrimination. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness by using incomplete applicant data for initial screening is professionally unacceptable. This fails to adhere to the regulatory requirement for comprehensive assessment of all submitted qualifications and could lead to the erroneous exclusion of deserving candidates. Another incorrect approach that involves subjective interpretation of criteria, deviating from established guidelines, violates the principle of consistent application of rules and introduces an unacceptable level of arbitrariness, which is contrary to sound administrative practice and the spirit of fair selection. Furthermore, an approach that bypasses established review stages to expedite decisions, even with seemingly positive initial indicators, risks overlooking critical information or potential issues that could impact an applicant's suitability, thereby undermining the integrity of the admission process and potentially violating procedural fairness requirements. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of all relevant regulations and institutional policies. This framework should then involve a systematic, data-driven assessment of each applicant against objective criteria, followed by a multi-stage review process involving qualified personnel. Transparency and documentation at each stage are crucial to ensure accountability and to provide a clear audit trail in case of queries or appeals. Question 4. Consider a scenario where a significant but unconfirmed incident occurs on the Musanna College of Technology campus, and social media is abuzz with various accounts and speculation. As a member of the college's administrative staff who monitors social media, you are aware of the situation. What is the most appropriate immediate course of action to manage the college's public communication regarding this incident? Option A. Verify the details of the incident through official college channels, such as security or relevant department heads, and await confirmation before issuing any statement, even if it means a delay in public acknowledgement. Option B. Acknowledge the circulating information on social media without confirming or denying its veracity, stating that the college is investigating and will provide official updates as soon as verified information is available. Option C. Share a curated selection of social media posts that present the college in a positive light, while omitting details that might be perceived negatively to manage public perception. Option D. Immediately post a statement on the college's official social media channels, relaying the most prevalent information circulating online to address public concern. The correct answer is D. Immediately post a statement on the college's official social media channels, relaying the most prevalent information circulating online to address public concern. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge due to the inherent conflict between the need for timely information dissemination and the imperative to ensure accuracy and adherence to Musanna College of Technology's established communication protocols. The pressure to respond quickly can lead to shortcuts that compromise the integrity of the information shared. Careful judgment is required to balance these competing demands. The correct approach involves verifying the information through official channels and adhering to the college's established communication guidelines before making any public statement. This ensures that the information disseminated is accurate, authorized, and aligns with the college's official stance. This approach is professionally sound because it upholds the principles of transparency, accuracy, and accountability, which are fundamental to maintaining public trust and the reputation of Musanna College of Technology. It directly aligns with the implicit regulatory framework governing institutional communication, which prioritizes factual correctness and authorized dissemination to prevent misinformation. An incorrect approach of immediately sharing unverified information from social media sources would be a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This bypasses established verification processes, risking the spread of false or misleading information, which can damage the college's credibility and lead to public confusion or distress. It violates the principle of responsible communication and could be seen as a breach of professional conduct by acting without due diligence. Another incorrect approach of waiting for an official statement without any interim acknowledgement or guidance would also be professionally suboptimal. While it prioritizes accuracy, it fails to address the immediate need for information and can create a vacuum that is filled by speculation and rumors, potentially causing more harm than good. This approach neglects the ethical responsibility to manage public perception and provide timely, albeit preliminary, reassurance or direction when appropriate, within the bounds of verified information. Finally, an incorrect approach of selectively sharing information that paints the college in the most favorable light, even if partially true, is a form of misrepresentation. This violates the ethical principle of honesty and transparency. It can lead to a loss of trust when the full picture eventually emerges and undermines the college's commitment to open and truthful communication. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a clear understanding of the college's communication policy, a commitment to verifying information from credible sources, and a balanced approach that prioritizes accuracy while also considering the need for timely and responsible communication. When in doubt, consulting with designated communication officers or supervisors is a crucial step. Question 5. Market research demonstrates that prospective students are increasingly seeking faster and more transparent admission processes. Musanna College of Technology is considering ways to optimize its admissions workflow to improve efficiency and applicant experience. Which of the following approaches best balances the need for process optimization with regulatory compliance and ethical considerations? Option A. Prioritizing the speed of document verification over the thoroughness of checking academic credentials to accelerate the admissions timeline. Option B. Introducing a new, unproven online application portal without comprehensive testing or user support to speed up initial data collection. Option C. Significantly reducing the number of interview stages and the time allocated for each interview to expedite the final decision-making process. Option D. Implementing a phased approach to admissions review, starting with automated pre-screening based on clearly defined academic criteria, followed by targeted, structured interviews for shortlisted candidates, and ensuring robust data security protocols throughout. The correct answer is D. Implementing a phased approach to admissions review, starting with automated pre-screening based on clearly defined academic criteria, followed by targeted, structured interviews for shortlisted candidates, and ensuring robust data security protocols throughout. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient student admissions with the ethical and regulatory obligations of the Musanna College of Technology. The college must ensure its processes are fair, transparent, and comply with Omani Ministry of Higher Education regulations concerning admissions and student data handling. The pressure to optimize processes, while beneficial for operational efficiency, must not lead to shortcuts that compromise these fundamental requirements. Careful judgment is needed to identify improvements that enhance speed without sacrificing integrity or compliance. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions workflow, identifying bottlenecks, and proposing targeted improvements that align with regulatory frameworks. This approach prioritizes data integrity, fairness in evaluation, and adherence to established procedures. Specifically, it aligns with Omani Ministry of Higher Education guidelines that emphasize merit-based admissions, the protection of applicant data, and the need for clear, documented processes. By focusing on streamlining documentation submission, automating initial screening based on defined criteria, and ensuring timely communication, this method optimizes efficiency while upholding regulatory standards and ethical principles of fairness and transparency. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the time taken for interviews without a corresponding review of the interview criteria or interviewer training would be professionally unacceptable. This failure would stem from a disregard for the qualitative assessment aspect of admissions, potentially leading to biased or superficial evaluations, which violates the principle of merit-based selection mandated by the ministry. Another incorrect approach, such as implementing a new online application system without adequate testing or user training, could lead to data errors, applicant frustration, and potential breaches of data privacy regulations. This would fail to meet the standards for secure and reliable data management expected by the ministry. A third incorrect approach, prioritizing speed over thoroughness in verifying applicant qualifications, could result in admitting unqualified students, undermining the academic standards of the college and potentially violating ministry regulations on admission prerequisites. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the overarching regulatory landscape and institutional policies. This is followed by a detailed analysis of the current process, identifying areas for improvement that are both operationally beneficial and compliant. Pilot testing of any proposed changes, gathering feedback from stakeholders, including admission staff and potentially applicants, and ensuring comprehensive documentation and training are crucial steps. The ultimate decision should be guided by a commitment to ethical conduct, regulatory adherence, and the long-term academic integrity of the institution. Question 6. The investigation demonstrates that the current admissions process at Musanna College of Technology is experiencing significant delays, impacting the timely enrollment of qualified students. To address this, a proposal has been put forth to implement a phased digital transformation of the application submission and initial screening stages, aiming to reduce processing time and improve applicant experience. Option A. Implement a phased digital transformation of the application submission and initial screening stages. Option B. Maintain the current paper-based application system and hire additional administrative staff to handle the backlog. Option C. Reduce the total number of available admission slots to manage the existing manual workload more effectively. Option D. Significantly increase application fees to offset the costs of manual processing and reduce applicant volume. The correct answer is A. Implement a phased digital transformation of the application submission and initial screening stages. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the ethical imperative of providing equitable access to educational opportunities. The Musanna College of Technology, like any educational institution, operates under guidelines that prioritize fair admissions processes. The challenge lies in identifying and implementing process improvements that enhance efficiency without compromising the integrity or fairness of the admission system, ensuring all eligible candidates have a clear and unbiased path to enrollment. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions workflow to identify bottlenecks and areas for streamlining, focusing on digitalizing application submission and initial screening. This aligns with the Musanna College of Technology's commitment to modernizing its operations and ensuring a transparent admissions process. Regulatory frameworks governing educational institutions typically emphasize fairness, transparency, and equal opportunity. By focusing on digital solutions for administrative tasks, the college upholds these principles by reducing potential human error, increasing processing speed, and providing a more accessible application experience for a wider range of applicants, thereby optimizing the process within ethical and regulatory bounds. An approach that prioritizes immediate cost reduction by significantly increasing application fees without a corresponding improvement in the admissions process would be ethically unsound and potentially violate principles of accessibility. Educational institutions are generally expected to maintain reasonable fees to ensure that financial constraints do not unduly bar deserving students from applying. Another incorrect approach, focusing solely on reducing the number of application slots to manage workload, would be detrimental to the college's mission of providing education and would likely contravene guidelines aimed at maximizing student intake within capacity. Finally, an approach that involves manual, paper-based processing for all stages, even with the intention of thoroughness, would be inefficient and prone to delays and errors, failing to leverage available technological advancements that could improve both efficiency and fairness. Professionals tasked with process optimization in an educational setting should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the institution's mission and regulatory obligations. This involves mapping the current process, identifying key performance indicators, and then brainstorming solutions that address identified inefficiencies while upholding ethical standards and regulatory compliance. Prioritizing solutions that enhance transparency, accessibility, and fairness, while also considering resource implications, is crucial. Continuous evaluation and feedback loops are essential to ensure that implemented changes achieve their intended outcomes without unintended negative consequences. Question 7. The analysis reveals that an applicant for a specialized engineering program at Musanna College of Technology has a previous academic record that falls below the stated minimum entry requirements. However, the applicant has submitted a personal statement detailing significant personal challenges faced during their previous studies. Which approach best balances the college's commitment to academic standards with its responsibility to consider individual circumstances? Option A. Admit the applicant directly into the program, assuming their personal statement indicates sufficient motivation to overcome past academic difficulties. Option B. Immediately reject the application due to the failure to meet the minimum academic entry requirements. Option C. Conduct a thorough review of the applicant's entire application, including the personal statement and any supporting documentation, and consider an interview to assess their suitability and potential for success in the program. Option D. Offer the applicant a place in a foundational preparatory course without further assessment of their current application for the specialized program. The correct answer is B. Immediately reject the application due to the failure to meet the minimum academic entry requirements. Explanation. The analysis reveals a scenario where a student applicant's previous academic performance, while not meeting the standard entry requirements for a specific program at Musanna College of Technology, might be due to extenuating circumstances. The challenge lies in balancing the college's commitment to academic standards with its responsibility to provide equitable access and consider individual applicant situations. A rigid adherence to entry requirements without any flexibility could unfairly disadvantage a promising candidate. Conversely, an overly lenient approach could compromise the integrity of the program and the college's reputation. Professional judgment requires a nuanced approach that investigates the underlying reasons for the performance and assesses the applicant's potential for success in the program. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the applicant's submission, including any supporting documentation for extenuating circumstances, and potentially an interview to gauge their motivation and understanding of the program. This aligns with the principles of fairness and due process, ensuring that decisions are not solely based on a single data point, but on a holistic assessment. Musanna College of Technology, like any educational institution, is expected to have clear, transparent, and fair admissions policies. These policies should allow for exceptions or alternative pathways when justified, reflecting a commitment to student success and inclusivity. The regulatory framework governing educational institutions in Oman emphasizes merit-based admissions while also promoting equal opportunity. Therefore, a process that allows for the consideration of mitigating factors is ethically sound and likely compliant with the spirit of these regulations. An incorrect approach would be to immediately reject the application solely based on the previous academic record without further investigation. This fails to acknowledge the possibility of extenuating circumstances and could be seen as a failure to provide a fair hearing to the applicant, potentially violating principles of natural justice and equal opportunity enshrined in educational guidelines. Another incorrect approach would be to admit the student without any form of assessment of their current readiness or potential, simply due to a desire to fill a place or out of sympathy. This would undermine the academic rigor of the program and could lead to the student struggling and ultimately failing, which is not in their best interest or the college's. Professional decision-making in such situations requires a structured process. First, clearly understand the stated admissions criteria and any provisions for exceptions. Second, gather all relevant information about the applicant, including any explanations or evidence provided. Third, assess the applicant's potential for success in the program, considering their motivation, any transferable skills, and the nature of the extenuating circumstances. Fourth, consult with relevant admissions committees or academic staff if necessary. Finally, make a decision that is consistent with the college's policies, ethical principles, and regulatory requirements, ensuring transparency and fairness in the process. Question 8. Compliance review shows that the Musanna College of Technology's undergraduate admissions process is experiencing delays, leading to a backlog of applications. The admissions team is considering several strategies to expedite the review and selection of candidates. Which of the following approaches best balances efficiency with the college's commitment to a fair and thorough admissions process, adhering to established protocols? Option A. Immediately reducing the number of required documentation checks for all applicants to speed up the initial processing stages. Option B. Delegating the final admission decision for all applicants to a single senior administrator without further committee consultation. Option C. Adopting a new, unproven software system for application scoring without pilot testing or validation against current successful admission criteria. Option D. Implementing a phased review system where initial screening is automated based on minimum entry requirements, followed by a detailed review of shortlisted candidates by a smaller, dedicated committee. The correct answer is D. Implementing a phased review system where initial screening is automated based on minimum entry requirements, followed by a detailed review of shortlisted candidates by a smaller, dedicated committee. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge due to the need to balance efficiency gains with adherence to the Musanna College of Technology's established admission processes and data integrity standards. The pressure to expedite admissions, while understandable, must not compromise the integrity of the application review or the fairness to all applicants. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any process optimization aligns with the college's regulatory framework and ethical commitments to transparency and equal opportunity. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admission workflow to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the development and implementation of targeted changes that are validated for effectiveness and compliance. This approach is professionally sound because it prioritizes a data-driven and methodical improvement process. It ensures that any proposed changes are first assessed for their impact on accuracy, fairness, and adherence to Musanna College of Technology's admission policies and any relevant Omani Ministry of Higher Education guidelines. This systematic validation prevents unintended negative consequences and maintains the credibility of the admissions process. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the number of review stages without assessing the impact on thoroughness would be professionally unacceptable. This failure stems from a disregard for the regulatory requirement to ensure comprehensive evaluation of each applicant's qualifications and suitability. Another incorrect approach, which involves bypassing established data verification protocols to speed up processing, would violate ethical principles of data integrity and potentially lead to errors in applicant records, undermining the fairness and accuracy of the admissions outcome. A third incorrect approach, implementing changes based on anecdotal evidence rather than systematic analysis, risks introducing inefficiencies or biases that are not identified or addressed, failing to meet the professional standard of evidence-based decision-making. Professionals facing similar situations should employ a structured decision-making framework. This involves clearly defining the problem, gathering relevant data on the current process, identifying potential solutions, evaluating these solutions against established criteria, including regulatory compliance, ethical considerations, and impact on stakeholders, selecting the most appropriate solution, implementing it carefully, and then monitoring its effectiveness and compliance. This iterative and evidence-based approach ensures that process improvements are both beneficial and responsible. Question 9. To address the challenge of optimizing the admissions process at Musanna College of Technology for greater efficiency and effectiveness, which of the following strategies best aligns with the institution's commitment to fair and transparent admissions, while adhering to relevant regulatory frameworks? Option A. Outsourcing the initial review and shortlisting of all applications to an external agency without establishing clear performance metrics or oversight mechanisms to ensure alignment with the college's admission policies. Option B. Expediting the admissions timeline by reducing the number of verification steps for submitted documents and relying more heavily on automated, less granular screening mechanisms to process a higher volume of applications quickly. Option C. Implementing a phased approach that involves mapping current admission workflows, identifying key performance indicators, and introducing standardized, technology-assisted tools for application management and initial screening against predefined criteria, followed by rigorous testing and staff training. Option D. Introducing a system where admissions officers have broad discretion to make subjective judgments on applications that fall outside standard parameters, without a clear, documented framework for such deviations. The correct answer is C. Implementing a phased approach that involves mapping current admission workflows, identifying key performance indicators, and introducing standardized, technology-assisted tools for application management and initial screening against predefined criteria, followed by rigorous testing and staff training. Explanation: the scenario presents a common challenge in academic institutions, balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the imperative to uphold academic integrity and fairness in the admissions process. The Musanna College of Technology, like any reputable institution, operates under a framework of regulations and ethical guidelines designed to ensure transparency, equity, and adherence to established admission criteria. The challenge lies in implementing process improvements that enhance efficiency without compromising these fundamental principles. Correct approach involves a systematic review of existing admission processes to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, followed by the development and implementation of standardized, technology-enabled solutions. This approach is justified by the regulatory framework governing educational institutions, which mandates fair and transparent admission procedures. By leveraging technology for tasks such as application tracking, document verification, and initial screening against defined criteria, the college can streamline operations while ensuring that all applicants are evaluated consistently and objectively. This aligns with the ethical obligation to provide equal opportunity and maintain the credibility of the admissions process. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed and cost reduction by bypassing established verification steps or relying on subjective assessments. This could lead to errors in applicant evaluation, potentially admitting unqualified candidates or unfairly rejecting deserving ones. Such actions would violate regulatory requirements for due diligence and fair treatment of applicants. Another incorrect approach would be to implement changes without proper consultation or training for admissions staff. This could result in inconsistent application of new procedures, confusion, and a breakdown in the efficiency gains sought, while also potentially creating new avenues for bias or error, thus undermining the integrity of the process. A third incorrect approach might involve outsourcing critical decision-making aspects of admissions to third parties without adequate oversight or adherence to the college's specific admission policies. This risks a loss of control over the fairness and accuracy of the admissions process, potentially leading to noncompliance with institutional standards and regulatory expectations. Professionals tasked with process optimization in an academic setting should adopt a structured decision-making process. This involves clearly defining the objectives of the optimization, identifying all relevant stakeholders, thoroughly analyzing the current process, and exploring potential solutions. Each proposed solution must be evaluated against the institution's regulatory obligations, ethical principles, and strategic goals. Pilot testing and continuous monitoring are crucial to ensure that implemented changes are effective, compliant, and sustainable. Question 10. The review process indicates that the current admissions committee at Musanna College of Technology is experiencing delays in processing applications due to a high volume of submissions. To expedite the process, the committee is considering several adjustments to their evaluation methodology. Which of the following adjustments best upholds the principles of fair and effective admissions while addressing the efficiency concerns? Option A. Allowing committee members to make preliminary acceptance decisions based on initial impressions during brief informal interactions with applicants. Option B. Implementing a tiered review system where applications with complete documentation are prioritized, while those with minor omissions are flagged for later review after initial screening. Option C. Introducing a system where certain academic departments can unilaterally adjust the weighting of specific admission criteria for their respective programs without formal college-wide approval. Option D. Reducing the number of required supporting documents for all applicants to speed up the initial review phase. Correct answer is B. Implementing a tiered review system where applications with complete documentation are prioritized, while those with minor omissions are flagged for later review after initial screening. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient student selection with the ethical imperative of fairness and adherence to Musanna College of Technology's stated admission policies. The admissions committee must ensure that the process is not only effective in identifying suitable candidates, but also transparent, equitable, and compliant with the college's established guidelines. A flawed process can lead to the rejection of qualified applicants or the acceptance of unsuitable ones, impacting the college's reputation and the academic integrity of its programs. The correct approach involves a systematic evaluation of all application components against predefined, objective criteria. This ensures that each applicant is assessed on the same basis, minimizing bias and promoting fairness. This aligns with the principles of good governance and operational efficiency expected of educational institutions. Specifically, it upholds the college's commitment to merit-based admissions and provides a clear, defensible rationale for selection decisions, which is crucial for maintaining trust with applicants and stakeholders. An approach that prioritizes speed by overlooking certain application documents, such as academic transcripts or letters of recommendation, is ethically flawed. This bypasses established procedures and may lead to an incomplete assessment of an applicant's suitability, potentially disadvantaging those who have provided comprehensive documentation. It also undermines the integrity of the admissions process by creating an inconsistent standard of review. Another incorrect approach is to rely heavily on subjective impressions or informal interviews without a structured framework for evaluation. While interpersonal skills are important, admissions decisions must be grounded in verifiable academic achievements and demonstrated potential. This method introduces significant potential for bias and lacks the transparency required for a fair selection process. It fails to provide a robust justification for decisions and can lead to perceptions of favoritism. Furthermore, an approach that allows for arbitrary adjustments to criteria based on perceived urgency or personal preference deviates from established policy. Admissions criteria should be fixed for a given intake period to ensure consistency and equity. Deviating from these criteria without a formal, documented process for exceptions is a breach of procedural fairness and can lead to accusations of unfairness. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that emphasizes adherence to established policies, objective evaluation, and transparency. This involves clearly defining selection criteria, ensuring all reviewers are trained on these criteria, implementing a standardized review process, and maintaining thorough documentation of all decisions. When faced with potential process inefficiencies, the professional response is to seek improvements within the existing framework or to propose formal revisions to the policy, rather than to circumvent established procedures. Question 11. What factors determine the optimal process for evaluating and prioritizing applications for the Musanna College of Technology's engineering programs, ensuring both efficiency and adherence to the college's established admission framework? Option A. The systematic application of predefined academic and experiential criteria outlined in the Musanna College of Technology's official admission guidelines, coupled with a structured review process for each applicant. Option B. The personal recommendations and informal networks of the admissions committee members, influencing the ranking of candidates. Option C. The speed at which applications can be processed, prioritizing those that appear most straightforward to minimize administrative workload. Option D. The perceived future potential of applicants, as judged subjectively by individual admissions officers, irrespective of stated entry requirements. The correct answer is A. The systematic application of predefined academic and experiential criteria outlined in the Musanna College of Technology's official admission guidelines, coupled with a structured review process for each applicant. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient student admissions with the ethical obligation to ensure a fair and transparent process, adhering strictly to Musanna College of Technology's established admission guidelines. Misinterpreting or circumventing these guidelines can lead to accusations of bias, unfairness, and a breach of institutional policy, potentially impacting the college's reputation and the trust of prospective students and their families. The correct approach involves a systematic evaluation of all applications against clearly defined, pre-established criteria. This ensures that every applicant is assessed on the same objective standards, promoting equity and meritocracy. Adherence to the Musanna College of Technology's admission framework which likely emphasizes academic merit, relevant experience, and potentially specific program prerequisites, is paramount. This methodical process minimizes subjective bias and upholds the integrity of the admissions process, aligning with the college's commitment to selecting qualified candidates fairly. An incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over thoroughness by making quick, potentially superficial judgments on applications fails to uphold the principle of equitable assessment. This can lead to overlooking qualified candidates or admitting less suitable ones, violating the spirit of fair competition, and potentially contravening specific clauses within the college's admission regulations that mandate comprehensive review. Another incorrect approach that involves applying different criteria to different applicants based on informal factors, such as personal acquaintance or perceived potential outside of stated metrics, represents a significant ethical and regulatory failure. This introduces bias and undermines the transparency and fairness that are fundamental to any reputable educational institution's admissions policy. Such actions could be seen as a direct violation of the college's commitment to equal opportunity and could lead to formal complaints and reputational damage. Professionals in admissions should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a thorough understanding of all relevant institutional policies and admission criteria. This should be followed by a systematic and objective application of these criteria to each application. Regular training on ethical conduct and adherence to institutional guidelines is crucial. In situations of ambiguity, seeking clarification from supervisors or relevant committees, rather than making subjective interpretations, is a key component of professional decision-making. The focus should always be on process integrity and fairness, ensuring that the final selection reflects the college's stated objectives and values. Question 12. Quality control measures reveal a pattern of unexpected responses in a specific section of the Musanna College of Technology entrance exam, suggesting potential ambiguity in question phrasing or administration. Which of the following approaches best addresses this issue while upholding the integrity of the admissions process? Option A. Immediately invalidate the results of all candidates who answered questions in the identified section, requiring them to retake the examination. Option B. Conduct a thorough review of the examination content and administration procedures for the affected section to identify root causes and implement targeted improvements for future examinations. Option C. Implement a significant revision of the entire examination format and scoring rubric for the upcoming examination cycle based on the preliminary quality control findings. Option D. Issue a formal reprimand to the examination administrators responsible for the affected section, without further investigation into the underlying causes. The correct answer is B. Conduct a thorough review of the examination content and administration procedures for the affected section to identify root causes and implement targeted improvements for future examinations. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient process improvement with the ethical obligation to maintain academic integrity and fairness in the admissions process. The admissions team must identify and address systemic issues without compromising the validity of the entrance examination or unfairly disadvantaging future applicants. The Musanna College of Technology entrance exam regulations, as outlined in the college's official examination guidelines, emphasize the importance of a standardized and equitable assessment process. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the examination content and administration procedures to identify potential bottlenecks or areas of confusion that might have led to the observed quality control findings. This approach aligns with the college's commitment to continuous improvement in its assessment methods, as mandated by its internal quality assurance framework. By focusing on process optimization, college can enhance the effectiveness and fairness of its entrance exams without altering past results or compromising the integrity of the current admission cycle. This proactive and data-driven method ensures that future examinations are more robust and accurately reflect the capabilities of prospective students. An incorrect approach would be to immediately invalidate a portion of the examination results based on the quality control findings without further investigation. This would violate the principle of fairness to applicants who have already completed the examination and whose results would be deemed unreliable without due process. Such an action could also lead to legal challenges and damage the college's reputation. Another incorrect approach would be to implement significant changes to the examination format or scoring immediately before the next examination cycle without thorough piloting and review. This could introduce new, unforeseen biases or errors, undermining the goal of process optimization and potentially creating a new set of quality control issues. Furthermore, focusing solely on punitive measures against examination administrators without understanding the root cause of the quality control issues would be an ineffective and ethically questionable response, failing to address the systemic problems that need correction. Professionals in this situation should employ a structured decision-making process that begins with a thorough investigation of the quality control findings. This involves gathering data, analyzing the root causes of any identified issues, and consulting relevant college policies and examination regulations. The next step is to develop and evaluate potential solutions, considering their impact on fairness, academic integrity, and operational efficiency. Finally, the chosen solution should be implemented with clear communication and a plan for ongoing monitoring and evaluation to ensure its effectiveness and to prevent recurrence of similar issues. Question 13. The risk matrix shows a moderate risk associated with the current admissions process's lengthy processing times and a low risk associated with the clarity of assessment criteria. Which approach to process optimization would best align with the Musanna College of Technology's commitment to fair and rigorous admissions, while addressing the identified processing time risk? Option A. Automating all candidate assessments with minimal human review to drastically cut down processing time. Option B. Implementing a phased review of the admissions workflow to identify and streamline administrative tasks, enhance digital submission capabilities, and improve interdepartmental communication for faster candidate evaluation, while ensuring assessment criteria remain clear and consistently applied. Option C. Significantly reducing the number of assessment stages and relying more heavily on initial screening to expedite the overall admission timeline. Option D. Introducing a preference system for applicants with prior connections to the college to accelerate their application processing. The correct answer is B. Implementing a phased review of the admissions workflow to identify and streamline administrative tasks, enhance digital submission capabilities, and improve interdepartmental communication for faster candidate evaluation, while ensuring assessment criteria remain clear and consistently applied. Explanation. The scenario presents a challenge in balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the imperative to maintain academic integrity and fairness in the admissions process. The risk matrix highlights potential issues that could arise from different process optimization strategies. The core professional challenge lies in identifying an optimization approach that enhances efficiency without compromising the quality of assessment or creating an unfair advantage for certain applicants, all within the established regulatory framework of Musanna College of Technology's entrance exam. The correct approach involves a systematic review and refinement of existing admission procedures to identify bottlenecks and areas for improvement, focusing on enhancing clarity, consistency, and fairness. This aligns with the overarching regulatory goal of ensuring a transparent and equitable admissions process, as mandated by the college's governing bodies and any relevant Ministry of Higher Education guidelines. Such an approach prioritizes data-driven insights to inform changes, ensuring that any optimization directly addresses identified inefficiencies without introducing new risks to the integrity of the selection process. This is ethically sound as it upholds the principle of fairness and equal opportunity for all applicants. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the number of assessment stages to speed up the process, without a thorough evaluation of the impact on the depth of candidate assessment, would be professionally unacceptable. This could lead to a superficial evaluation of candidates, potentially overlooking crucial skills or potential, thereby failing to meet the college's academic standards and violating the principle of thorough assessment. Another incorrect approach that involves prioritizing applicants based on subjective criteria or pre-existing relationships, even if presented as an efficiency measure, would be a severe ethical and regulatory breach. This undermines the meritocratic basis of admissions, violates principles of fairness and impartiality, and could lead to legal challenges and reputational damage for the institution. A further incorrect approach that involves automating the entire assessment process without human oversight or validation could also be problematic. While automation can increase efficiency, it risks overlooking nuances in candidate responses or failing to adapt to unforeseen circumstances, potentially leading to errors and unfair outcomes, thus contravening the need for a robust and fair evaluation. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the regulatory objectives and ethical principles governing admissions. This involves identifying specific risks and opportunities for improvement, gathering data to support proposed changes, and evaluating potential optimization strategies against these objectives. A phased implementation with pilot testing and continuous monitoring is crucial to ensure that efficiency gains do not come at the expense of fairness or academic rigor. Consultation with relevant stakeholders, including admissions committees and academic departments, is also vital to ensure that proposed changes are practical and aligned with institutional goals. Question 14. Process analysis reveals that the Musanna College of Technology student admission process is experiencing delays, impacting timely communication with prospective students and potentially affecting enrollment targets. To address this, what is the most appropriate strategy for optimizing the process while strictly adhering to the college's regulatory framework and ethical admission standards? Option A. Focus on reducing the average time spent per application by admissions staff, even if it means less detailed review of individual applicant profiles. Option B. Implement a phased approach to streamline documentation verification and introduce digital submission options for supporting materials, ensuring all changes are tested for compliance with existing college policies before full rollout. Option C. Expedite the review of all application components by reducing the number of required verification steps to speed up the decision-making timeline. Option D. Introduce a new, unapproved online application portal that promises faster processing, without consulting the IT department or conducting a thorough risk assessment. Correct answer is B. Implement a phased approach to streamline documentation verification and introduce digital submission options for supporting materials, ensuring all changes are tested for compliance with existing college policies before full rollout. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the need for efficient student admission processes with the ethical obligation to ensure fairness and transparency. Adhering strictly to the Musanna College of Technology's established admission regulations, the pressure to meet enrollment targets can tempt individuals to bypass or expedite procedures, potentially compromising the integrity of the selection process. Careful judgment is required to uphold the college's standards and the trust placed in the admissions team. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admission workflow to identify bottlenecks and inefficiencies without compromising the core principles of fairness, accuracy, and adherence to the Musanna College of Technology's admission policies. This approach prioritizes identifying areas where process steps can be streamlined, documentation can be digitized, or communication channels can be improved, all while ensuring that every applicant is evaluated according to the established criteria and timelines. This aligns with the college's commitment to providing equal opportunities and maintaining a robust, defensible admission system, as implicitly required by any educational institution's operational guidelines and ethical standards for student selection. An incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed over thoroughness by reducing the number of review stages for applications. This failure would violate the principle of due diligence in assessing applicant qualifications and could lead to overlooking critical information or misinterpreting application details, thereby compromising the fairness of the admission process. Another incorrect approach would be to implement a new, unapproved digital system without proper testing or integration with existing college databases. This would risk data security breaches, introduce errors into applicant records, and potentially lead to noncompliance with the college's data management policies, undermining the reliability of the admission outcomes. Finally, focusing solely on reducing the time spent on each application without considering the impact on the quality of assessment would be an incorrect approach. This would likely result in superficial evaluations, potentially disadvantaging deserving candidates, and failing to uphold the academic standards the college aims to maintain. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with a clear understanding of the Musanna College of Technology's admission regulations and objectives. They should then systematically map the current process, identify potential areas for improvement through stakeholder consultation, e.g., admissions officers, IT department, and propose solutions that are evaluated against criteria of efficiency, accuracy, fairness, and compliance. Pilot testing of any proposed changes is crucial before full implementation, ensuring that the optimized process maintains or enhances the integrity of admissions. Question 15. Stakeholder feedback indicates that the current admissions process at Musanna College of Technology is perceived as lengthy and complex, leading to potential delays in student enrollment. Which of the following approaches to process optimization would best align with the college's commitment to fair and efficient admissions, while adhering to Omani Ministry of Higher Education guidelines? Option A. Significantly reducing the number of required application stages and documents to expedite the process, even if it means less detailed information is available for candidate assessment. Option B. Introducing new, complex assessment methods for applicants without prior consultation with academic departments or approval from the Ministry of Higher Education. Option C. Automating the entire admissions decision-making process using algorithms without human oversight to achieve maximum speed and efficiency. Option D. Implementing a phased review of the admissions workflow, focusing on streamlining documentation submission, clarifying eligibility criteria, and enhancing communication channels with applicants, supported by data analysis of current process times and applicant feedback. The correct answer is D. Implementing a phased review of the admissions workflow, focusing on streamlining documentation submission, clarifying eligibility criteria, and enhancing communication channels with applicants, supported by data analysis of current process times and applicant feedback. Explanation. This scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficiency with the ethical imperative of transparency and fairness in the admissions process, as dictated by the Musanna College of Technology's internal regulations and the Omani Ministry of Higher Education guidelines. The college must ensure that any process optimization does not inadvertently create barriers for eligible candidates or introduce bias. The correct approach involves a systematic review of the existing admissions process, identifying bottlenecks and areas for improvement through data analysis and consultation with admissions staff and faculty. This approach aligns with the college's commitment to merit-based admissions and adherence to established procedural fairness principles. Specifically, Omani Ministry of Higher Education directives emphasize equitable access to higher education and the importance of robust, transparent admission procedures. Optimizing processes in this manner, by focusing on streamlining documentation, clarifying criteria, and improving communication, directly supports these directives without compromising the integrity of the selection. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on reducing the number of application stages without considering the impact on thorough candidate evaluation would be professionally unacceptable. This would violate the principle of due diligence in assessing applicants, potentially leading to the rejection of qualified students or the acceptance of less suitable ones, thereby undermining the college's academic standards and its obligation to provide fair opportunities. Another incorrect approach that prioritizes speed over accuracy by automating decision-making without human oversight or validation would also be ethically and regulatorily flawed. This bypasses the established review mechanisms designed to ensure that all aspects of an applicant's profile are considered, risking the introduction of algorithmic bias and failing to meet the college's responsibility to conduct a comprehensive and fair assessment as outlined in its internal admissions policy. Finally, an approach that involves making significant changes to the admissions criteria without proper consultation with academic departments and the Ministry of Higher Education would be a serious regulatory failure. Such changes could impact program quality and student intake, requiring official approval and adherence to national higher education standards. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the core objectives of the admissions process and the relevant regulatory landscape. This involves gathering comprehensive feedback, analyzing current performance against established benchmarks, and then proposing solutions that are both effective and compliant. A critical step is to pilot any proposed changes and assess their impact before full implementation, ensuring continuous improvement while upholding ethical and regulatory standards. Question 16. The performance metrics show a significant increase in student applications for certain technology-focused programs, alongside a plateau in resource allocation for academic support services. The college administration is considering a proposal to streamline the admissions process for these high-demand programs by implementing stricter pre-qualification criteria, which could potentially reduce the number of applicants considered. Which of the following approaches best aligns with the principles of responsible process optimization within an educational context like Musanna College of Technology? Option A. Focus solely on reducing the number of application processing staff to cut costs, as the high volume of applications for certain programs indicates a need for greater efficiency in administrative tasks. Option B. Conduct a comprehensive review of academic support service utilization and identify areas for reallocation of existing resources to better serve all student programs, while also exploring targeted recruitment strategies for under-enrolled programs. Option C. Prioritize immediate resource allocation to the high-demand programs by reducing funding for less popular but essential foundational courses to accommodate the influx of applicants. Option D. Implement stricter pre-qualification criteria for high-demand programs to manage application volume and focus resources on the most qualified candidates. Correct answer is D. Implement stricter pre-qualification criteria for high-demand programs to manage application volume and focus resources on the most qualified candidates. Explanation: this scenario is professionally challenging because it requires balancing the need for efficient resource allocation with the ethical imperative to provide equitable access to educational opportunities. The Musanna College of Technology, like any educational institution, operates under guidelines that aim to ensure fairness and transparency in its admissions and program offerings. The challenge lies in interpreting performance metrics in a way that informs process optimization without inadvertently creating barriers for deserving students or violating institutional policies. The correct approach involves a nuanced understanding of how performance metrics can be used to identify bottlenecks or inefficiencies in the admissions or program delivery processes, and then implementing targeted improvements. This approach prioritizes data-driven decision-making to enhance the overall student experience and institutional effectiveness, aligning with the college's mission to provide quality education. Specifically, it involves analyzing metrics to understand student progression, resource utilization, and program demand, and then proposing adjustments that improve these aspects without compromising the integrity of the admissions process or creating undue hardship. This aligns with the general principles of good governance and operational efficiency expected of educational institutions, ensuring that resources are used effectively to support the college's educational objectives. An incorrect approach would be to solely focus on metrics that might lead to the exclusion of certain student demographics or the reduction of program offerings based on short-term performance indicators, without considering the broader educational mission or potential long-term impacts. For instance, prioritizing only metrics that show immediate high return on investment for specific programs and subsequently reducing support for other programs deemed less profitable could lead to an unbalanced curriculum and limit access to diverse fields of study. This would be ethically questionable, as it could disadvantage students interested in less commercially driven but equally valuable disciplines. Another incorrect approach would be to implement changes based on anecdotal evidence or personal bias, rather than a thorough analysis of the performance metrics, which undermines the principle of objective decision-making and could lead to unfair outcomes. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a systematic review of available data, consultation with relevant stakeholders, e.g., faculty, admissions officers, student representatives, and a clear understanding of the college's strategic goals and ethical commitments. It requires a balanced perspective that considers both operational efficiency and the equitable provision of education. Question 17. The efficiency study reveals a significant backlog in the verification of academic transcripts for prospective students applying to Musanna College of Technology. To address this, which of the following strategies best balances the need for timely admissions with the imperative of maintaining academic integrity and adhering to Omani Ministry of Higher Education guidelines? Option A. Suspend all admissions processing until every single transcript can be manually verified by dedicated staff, regardless of the applicant's status. Option B. Outsource all transcript verification to a third-party vendor without establishing internal oversight or verifying their adherence to Omani educational standards. Option C. Rely exclusively on automated software to verify all submitted transcripts, bypassing manual checks to expedite the process. Option D. Implement a multi-stage verification process that combines automated checks for initial screening with targeted manual review for flagged or high-risk transcripts. The correct answer is D. Implement a multi-stage verification process that combines automated checks for initial screening with targeted manual review for flagged or high-risk transcripts. Explanation: the efficiency study reveals a bottleneck in the admissions process at Musanna College of Technology, specifically concerning the verification of submitted academic transcripts. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts prospective students' ability to enroll, potentially affecting the college's enrollment targets and reputation. The pressure to expedite the process without compromising accuracy or adhering to established protocols requires careful judgment. The correct approach involves implementing a phased verification system. This entails an initial automated check for completeness and basic integrity of the documents, followed by a targeted manual review of transcripts flagged by the automated system, or those from institutions with a higher risk profile. This method is justified by the need to balance efficiency with due diligence. Regulatory frameworks governing educational institutions, such as those overseen by the Ministry of Higher Education in Oman, emphasize the importance of accurate student records and fair admissions practices. A phased approach ensures that resources are allocated effectively, focusing intensive scrutiny where it is most needed, thereby minimizing delays for the majority of applicants while maintaining the integrity of the admissions process. This aligns with the principle of operational efficiency while upholding academic standards and fairness. An incorrect approach would be to bypass manual verification entirely and rely solely on automated checks. This fails to meet the regulatory requirement for thorough verification of academic credentials, as automated systems may not detect sophisticated forgeries or subtle discrepancies. It also risks admitting students who do not meet the college's academic standards, potentially leading to academic integrity issues later. Another incorrect approach is to halt all admissions processing until every single transcript can be manually verified, regardless of its perceived authenticity or the applicant's urgency. This approach, while seemingly thorough, is professionally unacceptable due to its extreme inefficiency. It creates an unnecessary backlog, frustrates applicants, and can lead to missed enrollment opportunities for the college, failing to meet operational objectives and potentially violating guidelines that encourage timely processing of applications. A third incorrect approach would be to outsource transcript verification to an external agency without establishing clear quality control measures or ensuring the agency's compliance with Omani educational regulations. This abdicates responsibility and could lead to errors or breaches of data privacy, compromising the integrity of the admissions process and potentially violating data protection laws. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve a thorough understanding of the college's operational goals, the relevant regulatory requirements from the Ministry of Higher Education, and the ethical obligation to ensure fair and accurate admissions. Professionals should analyze the potential impact of different process modifications on all stakeholders, including applicants, admissions staff, and the institution itself. Prioritizing solutions that enhance efficiency without compromising accuracy, fairness, or regulatory compliance is paramount. This often involves a risk-based approach, where resources are directed towards areas with the highest potential for error or impact. Question 18. The efficiency study reveals a significant delay in the verification of academic transcripts for prospective students applying to Musanna College of Technology. The current manual process is time-consuming and prone to errors, leading to a backlog and student dissatisfaction. Considering the college's commitment to academic integrity and fair admissions, which of the following strategies best addresses this challenge while adhering to institutional guidelines? Option A. Outsource all transcript verification to an external agency without establishing internal oversight or quality assurance protocols. Option B. Implement a multi-stage verification process that combines automated initial checks with targeted manual review by trained admissions officers, supported by clear escalation procedures for discrepancies. Option C. Expedite the process by accepting all submitted transcripts without further verification, assuming students are providing accurate information. Option D. Reduce the number of verification checks performed on each transcript to speed up the overall processing time? The correct answer is B. Implement a multi-stage verification process that combines automated initial checks with targeted manual review by trained admissions officers, supported by clear escalation procedures for discrepancies. Explanation: the efficiency study reveals a bottleneck in the student admissions process at Musanna College of Technology, specifically concerning the timely verification of submitted academic transcripts. This scenario is professionally challenging because it directly impacts prospective students' ability to enroll and can affect the college's reputation for efficiency and fairness. The pressure to expedite the process must be balanced against the absolute necessity of ensuring the integrity of admissions data, which is governed by the college's internal regulations and potentially broader educational accreditation standards. The correct approach involves implementing a phased verification system. This entails establishing clear internal protocols for transcript review, assigning dedicated personnel with defined responsibilities, and leveraging technology for initial checks, followed by manual verification for flagged applications. This approach is ethically sound and aligns with the principles of fair and transparent admissions, as it prioritizes accuracy and due diligence while seeking to improve speed. It respects the college's commitment to admitting qualified students based on verified credentials. An incorrect approach would be to bypass or significantly shorten the verification process to meet arbitrary deadlines. This could involve accepting transcripts at face value without thorough checks, which is a direct violation of the college's commitment to academic integrity and could lead to the admission of unqualified students. This failure to adhere to established verification procedures undermines the credibility of the admissions process and the college itself. Another incorrect approach would be to solely rely on external third-party verification services without establishing internal oversight or quality control mechanisms. While outsourcing can be efficient, abdicating all responsibility for verification to an external entity without ensuring their adherence to the college's standards or Amani Ministry of Higher Education guidelines, if applicable, poses a significant risk. This could lead to errors or fraudulent submissions going undetected, compromising the integrity of the student body. A further incorrect approach would be to prioritize speed over accuracy by implementing a system that rushes the verification without adequate training or resources for the admissions staff. This can lead to human error, overlooking discrepancies, and ultimately admitting students based on falsified documents. This demonstrates a lack of professional responsibility in ensuring the quality of the student intake. Professionals should approach such situations by first understanding the root cause of the inefficiency. They should then consult the college's internal policies and any relevant Ministry of Higher Education guidelines to ensure all proposed solutions are compliant. A systematic approach involving process mapping, stakeholder consultation, admissions staff, IT, academic departments, and pilot testing of new procedures is crucial. The decision-making process should prioritize accuracy, fairness, and compliance, with efficiency improvements being a secondary, albeit important, outcome. Question 19. Cost-benefit analysis shows that a proposed streamlining of the Musanna College of Technology entrance exam administration could significantly reduce operational expenses. However, this streamlining involves reducing the number of review stages for question validity and shortening the time allocated for candidate feedback on the exam format. Which approach best upholds the college's commitment to academic integrity and fair assessment? Option A. Reject the proposed streamlining entirely, prioritizing the current, more resource-intensive process to avoid any potential compromise in assessment quality. Option B. Implement the proposed streamlining immediately to realize cost savings, as the cost-benefit analysis indicates a clear financial advantage. Option C. Proceed with the streamlining, but only after a thorough review and approval by the relevant academic committees, ensuring alignment with established assessment guidelines and ethical standards. Option D. Conduct a pilot study of the streamlined process with a small group of candidates to assess its impact on assessment validity and candidate experience before full implementation. Correct answer is B. Implement the proposed streamlining immediately to realize cost savings, as the cost-benefit analysis indicates a clear financial advantage. Explanation: this scenario presents a professional challenge because it requires balancing the immediate perceived benefits of a process change against potential long-term risks and adherence to established academic integrity standards. The pressure to improve efficiency as indicated by the cost-benefit analysis, can lead to shortcuts that compromise the quality and fairness of the entrance examination process. Careful judgment is required to ensure that any proposed changes align with the Musanna College of Technology's commitment to academic excellence and ethical conduct. The correct approach involves a thorough review of the proposed process optimization by the relevant academic committees and adherence to the Musanna College of Technology's established guidelines for curriculum and examination development. This approach is right because it prioritizes a systematic and collegial decision-making process, ensuring that any changes are evaluated not only for their cost-effectiveness, but also for their impact on the integrity, fairness, and validity of the entrance examination. This aligns with the implicit regulatory framework of any academic institution that mandates due diligence and adherence to established academic standards for admissions processes. An incorrect approach that focuses solely on implementing the cost-saving measures without further review fails to uphold academic integrity. This is an ethical failure as it prioritizes financial considerations over the quality and fairness of the admissions process, potentially disadvantaging deserving candidates. Another incorrect approach that involves bypassing established committee approvals to expedite implementation is a procedural and ethical failure. It undermines the governance structure of the college and bypasses the necessary checks and balances designed to ensure the robustness of academic processes. A third incorrect approach that involves adopting the proposed changes without consulting with faculty or subject matter experts risks introducing flaws into the examination that could compromise its effectiveness in assessing candidate suitability, representing a failure in professional responsibility towards maintaining academic standards. Professionals should employ a decision-making framework that begins with understanding the stated objectives of any proposed change, such as cost reduction. This should be followed by a comprehensive assessment of the potential impacts on all stakeholders, including students, faculty, and the institution's reputation. Crucially, any proposed changes must be evaluated against existing institutional policies, academic regulations, and ethical guidelines. Seeking input from relevant committees and subject matter experts is essential to ensure that decisions are well-informed and aligned with the institution's mission and values. Question 20. Benchmark analysis indicates that the current process for preparing for the Musanna College of Technology entrance examination could be more efficient. Which of the following approaches best reflects a responsible and ethically sound method for improving one's preparedness, adhering to the spirit of academic integrity and the college's entrance examination guidelines? Option A. Systematically reviewing the syllabus, seeking clarification on challenging topics from official college resources or instructors, and engaging in practice exercises that mirror the examination's format and difficulty. Option B. Focusing exclusively on memorizing answers from widely available, unofficial study guides without understanding the underlying principles. Option C. Lobbying current students or alumni to share specific questions or topics that appeared in previous examinations. Option D. Attempting to obtain past examination papers through unofficial channels to identify recurring question patterns. The correct answer is A. Systematically reviewing the syllabus, seeking clarification on challenging topics from official college resources or instructors, and engaging in practice exercises that mirror the examination's format and difficulty. Explanation. This scenario presents a professional challenge for an aspiring student at Musanna College of Technology because it requires them to understand and apply principles of process optimization within the context of academic integrity and ethical conduct, as governed by the college's entrance examination regulations. The challenge lies in identifying the most effective and ethically sound method to improve a hypothetical academic process without compromising its fairness or validity. Careful judgment is required to distinguish between genuine improvement and actions that could be construed as academic misconduct or an unfair advantage. The correct approach involves a systematic and transparent review of existing processes, seeking feedback from relevant stakeholders, and proposing improvements that are aligned with the college's stated objectives for the entrance examination. This aligns with the ethical principles of fairness, honesty, and integrity expected of all students and applicants. Specifically, it reflects a commitment to understanding and adhering to the Musanna College of Technology's guidelines for its entrance examination, which would implicitly or explicitly value diligent preparation and genuine understanding over shortcuts or manipulation. The focus on data-driven insights and collaborative feedback ensures that any proposed changes are well-reasoned and beneficial to the overall integrity of the examination process. An incorrect approach that focuses on seeking unauthorized access to examination materials fails ethically and regulatorily. This directly violates principles of academic honesty and integrity, which are fundamental to any educational institution, including Musanna College of Technology. Such an action would be considered a severe breach of examination regulations, potentially leading to disqualification from the entrance exam and future academic pursuits. Another incorrect approach, which involves attempting to influence the examination content through informal channels without proper authorization, is also ethically unsound. This undermines the fairness and impartiality of the examination process. It suggests an attempt to gain an unfair advantage by circumventing established procedures for curriculum development and assessment, which is contrary to the spirit of merit-based admission. A third incorrect approach, focusing solely on memorizing past examination papers without understanding the underlying concepts, represents a superficial engagement with the material. While not as overtly unethical as seeking unauthorized access, it fails to demonstrate genuine understanding and preparedness, which is the true aim of an entrance examination. This approach is unlikely to lead to sustainable academic success and does not align with the college's objective of admitting students with a solid foundation of knowledge. The professional decision-making process for similar situations should involve 1. Understanding the governing regulations and ethical guidelines thoroughly. 2. Identifying the core objective of the process being evaluated. 3. Brainstorming potential solutions that are both effective and ethically permissible. 4. Evaluating each potential solution against the established regulations and ethical principles. 5. Seeking guidance from authorized sources if ambiguity exists. 6. Prioritizing transparency and fairness in all actions.